Okay, so I'm just going to quickly do a couple of these and make sure that we're where we should be. So some things from the first section. You know, which of the following has a domain of all real numbers except x equals 4.1? Well, we think, okay, we look at this and we're like, oh, I can't divide by 0. So this is going right 4.1. That would be where my vertical asymptote would be. So that's where I'm my exclusion of my domain. What are the equations of the asymptotes? This is a shifted one. So you went left, you went down. If you moved left, you think that's your vertical. If you move down, that's your horizontal. So you would have x equals negative 0.3 and y equals negative 0.3.4. What are the vertical asymptotes of any? Well, now I got a harder one. How do I find my vertical asymptotes? I set the bottom equal to 0. X equals negative 8, x equals positive 7. Straightforward. What are the x-intercepts? How do I find my x-intercepts? I set the top equal to 0. Now with this one, this is sort of a trick because that's actually a hole. And I'm not trying to trick you, but it would be x equals 1. So what I'm trying to do here, 2 quick recap graphs. So again, you're not putting this in your calculator. I'm asking you vertical asymptote, end behavior asymptote, x-intercept, y-intercept, draw the graph. First thing you should always do, factor, make sure there's no holes. This is x minus 5, x plus 2. Okay, vertical asymptote. Set the bottom equal to 0. X equals 5, x equals negative 2. Think about your graph as you go. So negative 2, 5. End behavior asymptote. Look at the degrees. The degree of the top is less than the bottom. Automatically, y equals 0. Way out there, way out there. X-intercept. Set the top equal to 0. If I set the top equal to 0, I get negative 1. That's a point. Negative 1, 0. Y-intercept. 0 in for x. In the top, 0 plus 1 divided by 0 squared minus 3 times 0 minus 10. That would give me 1 over negative 10, negative 0.1, which would be there. Okay, now I got to draw my graph. In the middle, my graph has to get close to these asymptotes. And it can't go back up because then it would have another intercept. So this has to go down like that. Now, this is 5, this is negative 2. You do not know if it's this or this, or if it's this or this, but it has to be one of those in each side. So what do? You got to put in points. Well, on this one, I would put in negative 3. The top gives me negative 2. The bottom would be 9, plus 9 is 18, minus 10 is 8. I get a negative. Because I got that negative, it's got to be down there. Over here, put in 6. Top would be 7. Bottom would be 36 minus 18, which is 18, minus 10, which is 8. 7/8. It's got to be there. I'm done. Okay? If I gave you this one, Same thing. Vertical asymptotes, end behavior asymptote, x-intercept, y-intercept. Think of what you're doing. Vertical asymptote, set the bottom equal to 0. Solve that, factor that, add 9, square root, you get plus or minus 3. So I got this graph. I got 3, negative 3. End behavior asymptote, the degrees, they're the same. When they're the same, I take the leading coefficient divided by the leading coefficient. Y equals 2. So again, you think way out here, it's going to get closer and closer to 2, not in the middle. X-intercept, set the top equal to 0. Now, if you can't factor that, then you do quadratic formula. Opposite of b, plus or minus, b squared minus 4 times 2 times 3, all over 2 times 2. Well, that gives me negative 5 plus or minus 25 minus 24, which is 1, square root of 1 over 4. Well, you're going to have to do that. Negative 5 plus 1 over 4, negative 5 minus 1 over 4. That's going to give you, and these are points. So negative 5 plus 1 is negative 4, divided by 4, negative 1. And then negative 5 minus 1 is negative 6, divided by 4, which would be negative 1.50. If I did it right, negative 60, yes. So that means we cross here and there. Strange. Y-intercept, 0 in for x. The top gives you 3. The bottom would give you negative 9, which is negative 1/3. So you think of what's really happening here. You're going to, I'm making sure this factored. 2x, x, 3, 1, yeah. Negative 1 and negative 1.5. So if I think about those two zeros, this has to go that way. But here, you know, you don't really know if it's going up and coming back down or if it's going back up. So if it's like bouncing, so you actually would want to put in negative 2. And if you put in negative 2, you get 8 minus 10. You get a positive on the top, but you get a negative on the bottom. So it actually is an upside down parabola. Now, the outsides are easy because you got to think. It's either this or this. It can't be this because I don't have any more x-intercepts. Same thing on the other side. It has to be up there, and it has to be up there, and I don't need to find any points to figure that out. If you wanted to find points, you could. But most important thing is you can find that stuff by hand. Okay, so hopefully that helps. Just a little recap. We'll see. Thanks.